Hey, what's up, y'all? You are listening to your Mental Matters podcast. I'm your girl Mo, and for those of you watching, thank you for tuning in. We are back with another episode and a very special
Yeah.
guest. We have Shannon Brown.
Yes.
Um, I've been I call her Shanny, right?
Shani.
We
Yeah,
yes.
everybody know me as Shani.
Yes. But yeah, I want to have Shannon introduce herself.
Of course.
Yeah, if you can introduce yourself
Yes,
to the
yes,
people,
yes.
let them know who
Hey
you are.
y'all.
Mhm.
I'm Shannon. Known as Shani by many people. My Instagram name is Shani B MFT. So the MFT stands for marriage and family therapist. So I'm a marriage and family therapist in New York. Currently just took my licensing exam, so y'all pray for me on that.
Yes.
And yeah, I've been in the field for about 3 to 4 years now. Currently in private practice, not my own as yet, but we getting there.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I just love what I do. Um, I really embarked in this field due to being the strong friend out of the group all the
Mm.
time,
Mhm.
being the listener, the giver, just being the mom of the group, so to say, but not quite the mom.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was just like, what can I do with this, right? Because being a giver, being a listener, and offering advice to the best of my ability definitely is a gift in itself. So
Yeah.
how can I use that gift to impact others? And this is where I'm landed, right? This is where God wants me, and this is the journey that I'm on so far. So it's definitely great to be in a space like this, sharing mental health awareness, just bringing insight to a
Mhm.
lot of people that search for this material elsewhere and
Yeah.
have to pay millions of dollars, bags of money to really get heard or be seen. So that's my purpose, that's my why. And thank
Mhm.
you for having me, of course.
No, of course. That was first of all, that was a fire intro. It was like smooth. That was like perfect. Um and I love that, and I resonate a lot with
Yeah.
that strong friend
Mhm.
mantra.
Mhm.
And I think maybe other therapists too might
Of
resonate with
course.
that too. Like that maybe that
Yeah.
was could have been the starting point for a lot of
Mhm.
people.
Mhm.
But I think it's amazing when you get into your niche, right? With
Yeah.
marriage and family therapy, which
Yeah.
we're gonna get into. I definitely am curious, like what led
Yeah.
you in that direction because that's
Mhm.
like specific, like that's a
Yeah.
specific niche,
Yeah.
right? Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I appreciate you for
Of
sharing
course,
that.
of course. Thank you for
Yeah,
having me.
no, of course. And for every episode, I always start with a
Mhm.
check in, right? A mental health check
Mhm.
in. So I wanted to start there with you
Yeah.
first. Like, how are you doing? How's your mental health
Yeah.
currently, right
Of
now?
course. Honestly, life is coming at me fast.
Mm, mm-hmm.
It's not hard,
Yeah.
right? But it's definitely coming at me fast. So as like, I'm expanding, as my business is growing, as I am growing as a clinician, life has its way of kind of like causing you to divert to a different plan, and you have to grow and adjust to these things. So I would say personally I'm doing great. Just life is coming at me fast, so I'm trying to
Yeah.
put things in place, and talk to who needs to be talked to, and just do my job to the best of my ability while also taking as much care of myself as possible. I know as clinicians we tend to lose that essence of self-care, right? We
Mm-hmm.
and I know we going
Yeah.
delve into that a
Get
little
into
bit
it.
deeper a little later, but
Mm-hmm.
definitely, understanding what self-care means to me, understanding that it's not just my outer appearance that's great, but
Mm-hmm.
also how I'm feeling internally. So I have to feed myself internally to then be good for others and good for myself.
Yes. Absolutely. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that so much. And I think that's so true. Like I
Mhm.
think and I'll do my check-in within this
Of
same
course.
vein where
Yeah.
I agree. Like I think
Mhm.
as therapists, right, as mental health clinicians, like
Mhm.
we very much so I think we try our best.
Yeah.
Like we really try our best to juggle like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, helping others, right?
Mhm.
And being on that journey with others,
Mhm.
but also trying to make sure like we're okay,
Yeah.
right? And we're
Yeah.
we're we're doing well because I think it's
Yeah.
definitely I don't know. I be like if I'm not doing well in those
Mhm.
moments, I be feeling like, girl,
Yeah.
you're not well right now, but you need to figure
Yeah.
out how to get well in the next week.
Quick.
Right.
Quick.
You can't be down.
Like,
You can't be down
quick.
bad. Like you have to get it together
Quick. Yep.
quicker.
Yeah.
Right. And I
Yeah.
think that it's a blessing, I think,
Mhm.
and sometimes it
Mhm.
curse because it's like
Yeah.
I'm really
Yeah.
not feeling it, but I'm gonna force myself out of
Yeah.
this space.
Yeah.
But I think I love that part of it where
I
it's like
do. Yeah.
I can't be stuck
Mhm.
in a space
Mhm.
for too
Mhm.
long.
But who wants to be stuck? That's
Right.
the thing. You know,
Right.
a lot of people deal with various mental health issues and are like, like I feel stuck, and the motive is never to be like stuck or feel stuck.
Right.
It's always to what can I do, next. And a
Mhm.
lot of the times people don't have what to do next,
Yeah.
right? They may have it but don't know how to utilize what they have. So the challenge is always, I got to search for it here and there and there and there and
Yeah.
there.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's so
Mhm.
true. I think yeah, if our community, right?
Yeah.
Especially I think, because specifically I feel like when it comes to just helping people of color,
Mhm.
right? Black and
Mhm.
brown, like for me, I think
Yeah.
that some people get comfortable in a
Mhm.
particular space, right? Where it's
Do.
like they've just been used to kind of like
Mhm.
dealing with the ups and downs of life and get
Mhm.
comfortable in those low moments.
Yeah.
And so I'm always encouraging people to like in my niche or work, I always try to
Mhm.
encourage like positive
Yeah.
psychology
Yeah.
techniques because it's like
Mhm.
it's very easy to look at things negatively,
Right.
right?
Right.
But
Right.
it takes more intentionality
Yeah.
to just switch it, right?
Of
And look at things
course.
more
Yeah.
positively.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love
Mhm.
what you shared. And I guess for my check-in too, I think
Mhm.
I'm good. I
Yeah.
think like maybe over the last week
Yeah.
up until now I was a bit anxious because I think
Mhm.
I was preparing for, coming to
Yeah.
record this weekend
Yeah.
because I don't know that I've actually made a full-blown like announcement to like
Yeah.
my audience or my listeners.
Mm.
I live in Philly now. Your girl has moved.
Mm.
Um
On to bigger and better things.
yes, girl. And like, I'm obviously a New York native, like born
Yeah.
and raised in
Mhm.
Queens.
Mhm.
But then I feel like 2023 there was a lot going on
Mhm.
and like I kind of was just like I need to change a pace. I need to
Yeah.
be in a different environment
Mhm.
because I somewhat felt like just like maybe just like a cloud like last
Mhm.
year was it last year or 2022? The
Mm.
timelines get mixed up, but my grandmother
Yeah.
the anniversary of my grandmother's passing
Yeah.
was a few weeks back.
Yeah. Sorry to hear.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. It was last month actually.
Mhm. Mhm.
The ending of January.
Right.
So um I think her passing about like a year or two ago, within the year or two time frame,
Mhm.
I think it just felt like there was a dark cloud because I was
Yeah.
still living in the home that like,
Yeah.
I grew up in with her
Mhm.
there and now her not being there and then me and my mom kind of managing.
Mhm.
I was just like, I think I just need to be in a new environment
Mhm.
and breathe like some fresher air
Yeah.
because it was
Yeah.
just feeling like at times overwhelming and I felt like I didn't want to get stuck,
Mhm.
right? I didn't want to
Mhm.
get stagnant when I
Yeah.
know there's a lot of things that I'm working on and trying to like
Right.
accomplish.
Mhm.
So um I was looking, first I started off looking, looking at places in New York, then Jersey, then what's the
Yeah,
next
that's the transition.
literally Jersey,
Everybody start from New York,
girl,
Jersey, then they start going further and further up. Yeah.
literally Jersey's the runner up, but
Yeah.
then I didn't like anything that I was seeing in
I
Jersey. So
understand. Yeah.
yes, like I'm not even,
Yeah.
shout out to the
Yeah.
Jersey natives or the people who reside in Jersey, but for
Mhm.
me, I wasn't like a fan. So I was
Mhm.
like, you know what? My mom actually is the one who put Philly
Yeah.
in my mind, and I was like, let's check it
Yeah.
out. Found an apartment and I stuck with it, and
Yeah.
it's about an hour and a half to 2 hours
Yeah.
away from the city,
Not
so
bad. Not bad.
it's
Yeah.
not crazy, but
Yeah.
it's been cool like living on my own. This is my first
Mhm.
time living away from home,
Mhm.
and kind of just juggling
Mhm.
that kind of
That
new pace.
independence.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
independence. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it feels great, and then other
Mhm.
times there's moments where I feel like stressed or anxious. Like
Yeah.
I'm still working. I'm
Right. Right.
meeting new people, like adjusting to a
Mhm.
different
Mhm.
environment.
That's the thing, the adjustment period.
Girl, girl, it
Yeah.
can be a lot. So I
Mhm.
think maybe this past week I was feeling a little anxious.
Yeah.
But today I can say I feel good.
Mhm.
I'm happy to be here, of course. Like
Mhm.
recording like the podcast
Yeah.
is something for me
Yeah.
that feeling never gets old. Like
Yeah.
coming into the
Yeah.
studio, having, just knowing what we're going to
Mhm.
talk about
Mhm.
under the umbrella of mental
Yeah,
health.
of course. It
Speaking,
comes natural for us though.
listen,
We
okay?
live it.
That's
We eat, sleep, we
exactly.
breathe it,
It don't stop.
everything. Like it
It
don't
don't
stop.
stop. If it's not sessions, it's
Yeah,
paperwork. If it's not
right.
paperwork, it's girl.
Talk about the paperwork.
Listen, I'll be tired.
Yeah,
I'll be like,
yeah.
it's not over.
I get it. Trust me, I get it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But and then yeah, of course talking to other clinicians, other
Yeah.
women. It's Women's Month, okay?
Period.
Right?
Mhm.
We're starting off Women's Month
Yeah.
with, doing this episode and being able to
Mhm.
speak to another Black woman, Caribbean
Mhm.
woman,
Yes.
right? In the field, to
Yeah.
me, is like
Yeah.
one of the best feelings ever. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Of
So,
course.
that was my long-winded version of
Yeah.
my check-in
Yeah.
and,
Mhm.
kind of just starting off, the show. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
Yes, absolutely. I'm happy to
Yes.
have you. And yeah, I want us to get into
Mhm.
the subject matter, right? Let's get
Yes.
into our
Yes.
topic. I was gonna do an icebreaker, but I feel like,
Yeah.
we're already kind of
We
like
broke the
warmed up.
ice.
Right. The ice is
Yeah.
broken.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think
Mhm.
we can start off with, and I know like before
Yeah.
us, coming together,
Mhm.
we did a bit of debriefing, right? Like talking
Yeah.
about like what would be good to kind of talk
Right.
talk
Right.
about in essence of Women's Month and us
Mhm.
being women,
Mhm. Mhm.
clinicians of color in the field.
Mhm.
Um and you suggested some things that I thought were great
Mhm.
for just the listeners and the audience to
Yeah.
know. And the first point was the downsides of juggling many hats as a woman,
Mhm.
right? So us
Mhm.
starting there,
Yeah.
and I love that. And yeah, I was thinking
Yeah.
maybe you can start.
Of course.
What do you think have been some downsides for
Yeah.
you?
Definitely the pressures of having to meet the demand of every title that you hold.
Mm,
Like
mm-hmm,
it's like people look to you to have it all together. People look to you to provide advice. People look to you to just be that very thing that they need,
mm-hmm,
right? So it's extremely important in those aspects. The more that you expand as a person, not just as a woman, you need a community of people that will remind you of your why, that
mm,
will remind you that, hey, you're in this space for a reason.
mm-hmm,
Like you are needed for a reason. So that would be the main downside. Alongside that would be, again, having that community, right? I
mm-hmm,
remember a few times during my journey, I didn't have people that seen the vision. Like I
mm,
didn't have people that seen what I wanted, I was working towards. And so it was difficult explaining it to them
yeah,
because they didn't have the language that I had.
yeah,
They didn't have the understanding that I had,
mm-hmm,
right? Doesn't mean that what they had to offer wasn't good. It just wasn't fitting for the place that I was going, that I am still on,
mm-hmm,
and journeying towards. So some of the downsides would be, definitely the pressure added onto just being everything for everyone else while
mm,
trying not to lose sight of yourself, while
mm-hmm,
trying not to lose sight of, hey, I'm still a human being. Like I
mm-hmm.
still want people to say, hey, I see you, I value you, I
Yeah,
love you,
yeah,
thank you,
yes,
for whatever reason it may be. But
right.
definitely those core words are important for women, are important for men, anyone,
Mm-hmm.
right? To just hear that, hey, some people see you and they consider you and they value you, however that role in their life looks like
Mm-hmm.
however your role in their life looks like. So there's downsides, there's upsides as well.
Mm-hmm.
But just focusing more on those downsides really, puts things into perspective for me,
Yeah.
especially, and I'm sure other Black women, right?
Yeah.
It kind of strips away that person from us. It strips away the fact that, hey, we are still human being, that we still need just as much pouring as we're pouring
Mm-hmm.
out, so yeah. It's definitely challenging, but you have to find your groove. You have to find where, okay, this is enough for me, and if I can extend myself a little bit more, then that's great. But
Yeah.
if not, that's still completely okay as well.
Yeah.
Like we also add on pressure to ourselves because we feel like every assignment that people or every inquiry that people, come at us with, we have to take it on because we are professionals. And that is a lie.
That's a lie.
That is a lie.
Say that, girl.
Like,
That's a whole
it,
lie.
you don't have to take on anything you feel like will strip away your womanhood, will strip you away from who you are as a person, because it's so easy to get lost in just the juggling of everything taking place around you. It's easy to lose yourself. It's
Hmm.
easy to forget your why,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes you'll find yourself just doing assignment after assignment and no fulfillment is there.
Mm.
That's because you've lost the true essence of who you are as a person. So you're now moving on, like you're moving on wind. You're
Mm.
not moving on a firm foundation. You're moving on very unstable means. So, definitely taking a step back and reflecting as often as you can will be
Yes.
helpful for you as you journey through whatever, you've been called to do.
Love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you hit so many good points. And I
Mhm.
think, just, from what you shared, one of the
Yeah.
things that I guess could add or was thinking too,
Mhm.
was just that point about like um what came up for me was like that the strong woman trope,
Yeah.
right? Where it's like
Yeah.
I think sometimes people see women as like being very like
Mhm.
flexible, right? And
Yeah.
like being able to withstand a lot,
Everything.
right? Which is like everything, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like some women, yeah, we
Yeah.
have it.
We
We
have it because
can.
that's our instinct.
Right.
We were born to be nurturers, to figure things out. We were born to be helpmates, as the
Mhm.
Bible tells us. Like,
Mm.
we are helpmates
Mhm.
towards whatever project that we are presented with. So
Yeah.
if we can't help, right, and if we don't know when to not help, then the
Yeah.
burnout immediately comes after.
Oh yeah, the burnout will ensue at some point, whether
Mhm.
or not we want it to or not.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, that's one of the downsides I can say is that like
Mhm.
um we as women just being able to set
Mhm.
like firmer boundaries for ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think I
Yeah.
like to say sometimes as like therapists is like we got the cheat code, right?
Mhm.
But even though we got the
Even
cheat code,
that, we don't
we
really
still
use it.
right, at times we still
We
overextend.
still,
We
yeah,
still can
yeah,
overextend and like
yeah,
find ourselves burnt out or
yeah,
exhausted, right?
yeah.
So I think that's where I think as women
Mhm.
maybe yes, we may be adaptable,
Yeah, yeah.
flexible, able to withstand a lot of things,
Mhm.
but not signing up for things that
That's it.
we don't have
That's it.
to.
I think
Hmm.
a lot of that specific trait too, or it has. I've noticed it being a pattern really when I first finished like grad school,
Yeah.
right? It's like the need to have to jump from one extreme to the next extreme.
Mm.
Literally, I was out of once I left grad school, literally 4 months later, I was working, or something along those lines. Between 4 to 6 months later, I was working. So that
Hmm.
was a quick transition. So me having to process the fact that, hey, you're a grad student, like
Yeah.
like you just finished your master's, right?
Hmm.
And then having to jump right into work. Now taking on 40 clients a week, which is
Oh
ridiculous.
girl.
Taking on 30 plus clients a week, taking on so many people to the point where I literally remember reaching this breaking point in my journey and I was like, I am tired. I
Hmm.
don't know what it means to be a therapist at this point. I
Yeah.
don't really want it at this point because I've taken on so much more than I could even manage.
Right.
And that's something that we have to look out for as clinicians in any work that you do, rather, right?
Yeah.
You have to look out for those moments where you hit your breaking point, because there's always times where you realize you're reaching that breaking point and you ignore it because you're just like, I can do more. There's more that I can do because, for some reason intrinsically, some of our values are dependent on how much more that we can do. How much
Mm.
can I like extend myself for people to see me, for people to see that, hey, this is me, right?
Yeah.
So numerous times I've had to take, a break. I've had to say, no, I need to take a week, 2 weeks off. I don't care if the money, I
Yeah.
don't care about it, right?
Right.
Because it's not just about the money when you're in this field. It's also taking taking care of yourself so you can pour into your clients, so you can
Yeah.
be a good team member for your, if you're working in private practice, in an agency, whatever it is,
Yep.
you have to be able to pour into yourself as much as you can, so that you're enough for where, God has called you to be, right?
Girl, you
So yeah.
speaking. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yes. You was
She
speaking.
said you
I'm
spitting.
like, you're spitting, okay? Because yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, I think I've gotten to the point now where if I know that my cup like is overflow, like I'm just
Mhm.
tired,
Mhm.
I will not go forward.
Yeah.
And that's where like I think
Same.
that's growth, because I think in
Yeah.
the beginning too I was just like my mind is foggy. Like I'm talking
Right.
to these clients and I'm over here
Right.
like they don't
Knucking
even
if you
they don't
bucking,
they
like,
don't
oh
even
my
they don't even
gosh.
realize. And that's
Yeah.
where I'm like
Yeah.
I don't want to be there. Like I want to
Yeah.
feel energized when I'm
Yeah.
talking to my clients. I want to
Mhm.
feel like
Yeah.
yeah, tell me about
Yeah.
what that thing is that
Yeah.
you've been struggling with. Like I want to feel like I really want to
Mhm.
engage with
Yeah.
them, because that's why I got into the field. So the minute that I start to
Mhm.
feel like
Yeah. Take a step back.
I take a step back
Yeah.
every time, and
Mhm.
I'm like, my supervisor, they could be emailing me down, and
I'll
I'm
be
like,
like, we gonna turn this off today because
literally, I'm
you ain't gonna
like,
stress me out.
I'm gonna reply in about
Yeah.
24 to 48 hours,
Yeah.
because
Give me some time.
right. I mean,
Yeah.
if nobody is trying
Of
to harm
course. Yeah. Yeah.
themselves, or
Yeah.
those
Of
more
course. We
extreme
take the
cases,
safety precautions.
exactly.
Yeah.
But it's like this could wait, because
Yeah.
I'm not in
Yeah.
the greatest of mental spaces right
Yeah.
now, because I've
Yeah.
been working nonstop
Yeah.
this for the past 2 weeks.
Yep.
So I think
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That was great.
Yeah.
Okay. And so
Yeah.
any other thoughts on that topic before we go to the
Let's
next one?
see. I was mentioning also the upsides of, juggling these hats, right?
Yes.
It's an honor and a privilege,
Yes.
and I'm very humbled to, wear these hats, right? Because just as much refreshing and restoring and just, taking care of yourself is to just you, right? You start to see that, hey, you're valued in these places, right?
Mhm.
You're needed in these places. Your level of knowledge and wisdom that you carry is needed in these places,
Yeah.
right? People will say the same thing but not say it, just say it as you, right? And people not be as impacted before as they were when you said it, right?
Mhm.
So having that in mind definitely is an upside, right? Knowing that you are valued, because who doesn't want to know that,
Yeah.
right? Who doesn't want to feel loved or appreciated in these areas? So that would be one of the upsides of wearing many hats, right?
Mhm.
And it causes you to also want to take care of yourself a lot better. So, you're not just doing things now off of the strength of I want to be seen. You're doing it off of the strength of, I am needed. Like this is where demand is. So
Mhm.
I have to be good for myself first so that I can pour into other people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure. I think there are a lot of upsides.
Mm-hmm.
For both. There's
Yeah.
upsides and downsides.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I'm trying to reflect on some of the upsides.
Mm-hmm.
I guess for me personally, I
Mm-hmm.
think with juggling many hats, I feel like it keeps me inspired. Like I
Yeah.
think if I didn't
Yeah.
do like multiple, like say if I
Yeah.
was just a therapist,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which if you are, that's okay.
Right.
Right? I want to put
That's
that out
okay.
there.
That's
I'm
completely
speaking
fine.
right, I'm speaking about myself,
Yeah.
right? I think if I was
Yeah.
just a therapist, like if I was just doing the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I would
Mm-hmm.
be looking or
Yeah.
searching for something
Yeah.
else, because but I guess I feel like with having this duality of yes, I
Mm-hmm.
do, like I am a professional, I speak to clients one on one, I help them with their mental health, but I also take a lot of pride in being able to like speak to other people,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
Mm-hmm.
and have more like candid, like just down to earth
Mm-hmm.
conversations about
Mm-hmm.
like how they're really doing and like what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me it keeps me inspired, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't also just do those things. Like I'm a
Yeah.
friend, right?
Yeah.
I'm a family member.
I'm a sister.
There's so many
I'm a
other
daughter. Yeah.
right, like
Yeah.
just being
Mm-hmm.
dynamic in that way,
Mm-hmm.
I think keeps me inspired and
Yeah.
motivated, and
Yeah.
also keeps me on my piece, like it keeps me on my toes, like it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
just continuing to like grow and
Mm-hmm.
like be like
Mm-hmm.
a solid person
Of
comes
course.
from juggling and
Yeah.
multiple things and being in different areas. So I
Mhm.
think for me, like that's one of, I guess I could say, the more significant
Yeah.
upsides that
Yeah.
I see in my personal life is that like
Mhm.
if I didn't do multiple things,
Yeah.
maybe I would become stagnant. Maybe
Yeah.
I would like,
I thought so
lose,
too.
right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Definitely, because I'm just like I like being around people. I'm a people person. As
Mhm.
reserved as I may seem, that's just my way of preserving my energy. That
Mhm.
is just my way of, resetting. So
Yeah.
if people do come to me, you're always going to get a bubbly me. Like you're always going to get a very energized me, because I've learned to, and I'm still learning, by the way, how to allocate myself, like,
Mhm.
allocate my time, where I'm not feeling depleted when I'm talking to someone.
Say
I'm
that.
not feeling depleted when, I have engagements to go to, or
Yeah.
whatever it is that I need to do. I'm not feeling depleted in these places because I've given myself enough time to process what is next, to
Yeah.
process, the things that are going on. And like I said, I'm a work in progress, right?
I
I may
know.
seem well rounded, well put together, and it's not that I'm not. It's just a matter of we're all still students to life.
Yeah.
We're all still learning throughout our journey. So definitely remaining in that space of student it has been very beneficial for me. And that would be my recommendation to a lot of people too, is to remain a student. Remain in a place where you can easily be taught,
Mhm.
right? So that you're not, feeling very boastful that this information is just it. This will
Mhm.
take me further. It will take you to a high peak, yes, but then you'll need some more information to bring you a lot further.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Stay a student.
Yeah.
That might be the title of this episode, child. Stay a student, remain a learner. Cause one
You
thing about
got it. Yeah.
girl, I was over here the other day. Like the thought crossed my mind
Mm-hmm.
to like go after my PhD, and I was like, that's nuts. In my mind, I was like,
Same.
cut
That's
it
a
out. No,
lot.
literally, I was like, please
Yeah.
cut it out. Like
Yeah.
you can learn something else. Like you don't have to
I
go.
said
I
the
was like, cut it
same thing.
out, bro.
That's
Wolf,
me.
you hear
Yeah.
this? I'm like, why? Like
Yeah.
the thought came to me, like,
Same.
why do you want to put yourself through
Same. I
this?
said the same thing too. And so many people have actually, like, a few people have taught me out of it, but then I still have that fire. Like, I
Girl.
still need to go for it. I
Yeah.
still need to get my doctorate. Like,
Yes.
and it's like something in me won't make me stop
I
like having
know.
this urge. So I'm gonna get it. I don't know when
Yeah.
I'm gonna get it, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
get
No, for
it.
sure. And I think
Yeah.
that's just like the learner's
Yeah.
spirit. Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
want to continue,
Yeah.
cuz me I really, and it's crazy me saying this cuz I'm thinking about my younger self.
Mm-hmm.
I actually like school. Like
I
I
do
like school. I
too.
like that learning element of it, right?
Same. I
And
do
when I
too.
was younger, it's not even like I was so like study
Yeah,
heavy and
that's what I say.
but
Yeah.
as I've gotten older, I really grew an appreciation for like just
Learning.
being taught.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
please teach me.
Same, same,
Mhm.
same, same. I
So,
can definitely relate to that too, because I'm just like, I don't know how people could sit down and just like be comfortable with
mm,
just, minimal information. Like
mhm,
every time I, do an engagement, or I'm like, asked to do something or speak somewhere, I'm just like, how can I learn from this experience?
mm,
People are trying to learn from me. So how can I grow in understanding and learn from these same people?
yeah,
Like, because sometimes when you step into certain engagements, that feeling of of being superior sometimes steps in, because you're just like, yeah, like
mm,
they're asking me and blah blah blah, and I'm like, "Ugh, we gotta humble a little bit more,
mhm,
and remember that you can learn from these people as well,
yeah,
right? Don't matter the population, there's always room to learn. So I definitely agree to the remaining a student
mm,
aspect, and just love learning. I love being
right,
taught,
yeah,
because it fills me up so that I'm able to fill other people up. So
absolutely.
it definitely has been beneficial for me.
No, for
And I'm
sure.
happy for you too. So we getting our doctorate.
Girl, hello. Just know when I'm ready, I'm calling you like, Shan, what we doing?
Period.
What
I'll
we
be
doing?
like,
How
girl,
we
I'm on the phone with that bitch right now.
No, seriously. And I think, and for the listeners, the audience too,
Yeah.
like there's a lot of people who aren't like necessarily school
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
But I think there's self-help books, there's
Yeah.
like you can do
Yeah.
there's so many ways to
Of
consume
course.
information.
Yeah.
And that's what I keep telling myself to try
Yeah.
to talk myself out of going
Mhm.
forward in this
Yeah.
direction. But I think for those who just aren't
Yeah.
into like just the traditional
Mhm.
aspect of school where you know, whether it be like,
Yeah.
you know, learning from a professor or something like
Mhm.
that, I think there's so many other ways that you can just learn, grow,
Mhm.
consume information
Mhm.
and those type of things. But
Yeah.
yeah, I love that point that you made about just even humbling yourself, right?
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
opportunities are presented. And I think for me personally, like
Mhm.
whenever I'm asked to do anything or somebody reaches out,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I'm always like humbled, like me, because
Yeah.
I feel like I'm so
So I think we all got
yes,
that.
yes. But I
Yeah.
think sometimes that can be because there's like a the line of like
Yeah.
sometimes it's like imposter syndrome
Yeah.
where it's
I
like
was just about to say
you
that.
almost
Yeah.
like are too humble to the point where you
Yeah.
don't see how valuable
Yeah.
you are, and then
Yeah.
there's the
Mhm.
okay, you like you feel like you deserve to be in
Yeah.
these spaces.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
just finding that sweet, you know, that middle,
Balance. Yeah.
that sweet spot of like,
Yeah.
yeah, like the humility to know that
Mhm.
like, you know, you don't have to be here,
Yeah.
like
But
you're
they want you here.
right,
Like, yeah.
versus
Yeah.
like and then the other
Mhm.
side of it
Yeah.
is like you're here for a reason,
Yeah.
right? So I think that's where,
Mhm.
you know, I find myself always just like, you
Yeah.
know, like, and I think even just like on a spiritual level, I'm always
Yeah.
just like, I even just making it as far as I have,
Yeah.
career wise,
Yeah.
I'm just like, nah, it's
Yeah.
not my own doing. Cause I know
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I've had moments where I was lazy, where I didn't
Yeah.
feel like doing stuff.
Yeah.
And then, so that's why sometimes I'm
Yeah.
always looking at like my career path, even
Yeah.
becoming a therapist,
Yeah.
as like a calling, like
Yeah.
from God, like
Yeah.
in a spiritual sense. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's not my own doing that I
Girl, it
even,
ain't.
right.
We ain't even got enough strength to do anything on our own.
Yeah.
So, definitely, that reflection moment that
Mm,
you had is necessary
mm-hmm.
because then you tend to appreciate who God is in your life, how he has pushed you from one place to another, and you get to enjoy the process. We
Yeah.
teach our clients a lot about the process, enjoying it, being a part of it, being present, being mindful, but we have to do the same thing too,
Yeah.
right? Being present, being mindful is more than just sitting down and having a notebook and a pen.
Yeah.
It's also reflecting, right?
Mm-hmm.
How could I have handled this situation better? What could I have said a lot better, right?
Mm.
Reframing technique from cognitive behavioral therapy,
Mm.
right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
reframe and restructuring those thoughts that make you feel like you're inadequate. Like, who told you that,
Right.
right? You rehearsed a truth that wasn't really the truth. So
Mm.
it became your identity. So now
Mm-hmm.
you are stuck in a bubble. So you tend to reach the capacity of that bubble. And now you're like, what more? What more can I do? So you're always searching for what's next, right? So
Yeah.
you're not really reflecting on what is causing you to feel this way, but you're focused on where can I go next, right? How can I escape this? When the escape is taken, it has to take place within. So
Yeah.
that reflection moment that you just mentioned is definitely something that I can relate to as well, because
Yeah.
it's helped keep me very stable, very uh just it has help keep me grounded,
Yeah.
right? For therapeutic terms.
Period.
It's helped keep me grounded. So yeah, it's important.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
No, thank you for sharing that. I love
Mhm.
that. Okay. That was good. I
Yeah.
feel like that was for the first
Yeah.
point, right?
Yeah.
And then the next one that you mentioned was
Mhm.
self-care redefined,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So for you, what did you mean by that? Like how would you
Yeah.
redefine self-care?
Sure. So, of course, self-care is subjective to a lot of people, right?
Mhm.
Everyone has their idea of what self-care looks like, how it feels,
Mhm.
what it's supposed to be, and so on and so forth. But I've noticed a challenge with people's understanding of self care that it's only physical,
Mm.
right? You can only do physical things if your mental and your emotional state is up to par, right?
Mm.
If you feel empowered, right? If things look like they're supposed to look, depending on what that appears like to you, then you'll start expressing it outwardly, right? So you'll have a wardrobe change. You'll start to do your hair a lot different. You'll
Mm.
start to, smile a lot more, right? So
Mhm.
you can only do as much physically as you do emotionally, mentally, spiritually, whatever, right? So when I say self care redefined, is also making it personal for you, but exceeding just that physical definition. It's
Mm,
not, self care is not just physical.
right.
It's taking care of your entire health. So even this means that you're going to your doctor's appointments regularly, right?
Yes.
Since we're in Women's Month, we have to also highlight, mammograms, right? Breast mammograms, right? We have to highlight physicals once a year,
Mm-hmm.
right? GYN appointments. These are important things that you have to be doing as a woman
Yeah.
and just as an individual in general,
Yeah.
right? Focusing more on your overall health instead of your physical health, because self-care is, it's taking care of yourself, right?
Yes.
um and a lot of the time society has turned things towards self all the time. So that overwhelming feeling that we feel most times throughout our life, and that burnt out feeling, is because we're so dependent on self. We're so dependent on the fact that I could do this by myself. I don't need any help from no one. And that's a lie as well,
Mm,
right? Because if we didn't need each other, then why would other people be around us? Like,
mm-hmm.
why would other people be
Yeah.
in the same field as us? Why would other people be doing what we are doing, just have more understanding of it,
Right.
right? So that's really what self-care redefined is not just limiting yourself to physical attributes or doing physical things to make yourself feel good, because you can put yourself together outwardly all the time, and your inner man is always like angry. You're always
Mm.
nasty towards people. You can't keep friends, but you're blaming other people for your inability to recognize the faults within yourself, right?
Ooh.
The
Mm-hmm.
Bible does talk about you looking at the log in someone else's eye when you have a log already in your eye.
Ooh. I
So
know that scripture for
yes.
sure.
So definitely looking at what is wrong with me. Like, am I the problem? And not just saying it from a perspective of like, woe is me. Like, oh my gosh, people have to run to my sympathy.
Mm-hmm.
But realizing that your identity is not only physical. Like, you're not just supposed to be on this earth to look good, right? You're not
Yeah.
just supposed to be on this earth or impact people just because you look good.
Mm-hmm.
You have to also be wearing that goodness. You have to also be um you know living it out daily,
Yes.
right? Being kind to people, right? Being concerned about other people's feelings as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, self-care has definitely, it needs to shift a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
This self-care looks differently to everybody, of course, but the idea and the central definition of it needs to shift a little bit, because it's caused so many people to always look good. It's kind of given even social media a look, right?
Mm.
Where it's like a lot more people are more glorified or highlighted on social media because of just looks,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they have horrible, friendships with people. They're nasty people, right? And you
Let's talk
can't
about
be
it.
that
What?
you can't be that
Mm-hmm.
way with a pretty face or with a handsome face and expect people to be, kind to you or offer you anything or partner with you on anything, because your soul is disgusting. Like,
Let's get into
we
it.
have
She
to
said disgusting.
really
She
disgusting.
specifically said that.
Yes, yes, I said it
It's
on purpose
true.
and I'm
It's
not taking it
don't take it
back.
back because it's
Yes.
that's truth right there.
Yeah.
I think that's so true. I love that. And
Yeah.
even the part that you mentioned about being kind to others,
Yeah.
right? Which
Yeah.
people might be like being kind to others equals self-care, and it's like, yeah,
Mhm.
I could see that because I
Mhm.
do think like the way that you treat others
Yeah.
also has like a ripple effect on you,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
do think like the more you give
Mhm.
to others, it does
Yeah.
something where it makes you feel
Of
like
course.
great
Of
about that,
course.
right?
Of
And it's like not
course.
to say you doing it
Yeah.
to receive
To
something in
receive, right?
return,
Right.
but I do think that people underestimate the
Mhm.
power of just like giving to others and not
Yeah.
necessarily expecting anything
Wanting
in
anything
return.
back,
Right.
because we are like, what would it be if the world was just filled with people who did something and asked for something in return? Like, the world would be so grimy, and it is, don't get me wrong, it
Yeah.
still has its downsides, but the world would be filled with such grimy and like hard heart people,
Yeah.
and so we would never be able to negotiate anything. We
Yeah.
would never be able to uplift another generation because we are so focused on give it to me, give it to me,
Yeah.
right? And so that's what I was talking about earlier too, with just the self-care aspect, right? Because if we're focusing always on self, where do you tend to focus on other people,
Yeah.
right? Even with your family and your friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
They could be crying out for something, in need of something, and you're blinded by the fact that I need it, I need it, I need it, I need it. Then maybe when I get it, I will give it to them, right?
Mm.
That's not kind, that's not you showing empathy towards anyone at all. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely growing and understanding that we need each other.
Yeah.
Like we have to be, we have to be kind towards others. We have to be, loving. Like, a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't know what love is." That's subjective as well, right? But you know, and love is also is really being considered. That's why
Mm.
I tell even my married couples too. I'm like, they'll say, "Yeah, I love him or I love her." Yeah, but I'm like, are you showing that? Right?
Mm.
Are you putting in the work to ensure that this is something that you genuinely care about, right?
Mm.
You'll care about something that a name brand thing. You'll care about
Yeah.
your house because you don't want nobody break it in.
Right. Right.
Right? You'll care about your phone because it has your life on it,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you wouldn't care about losing someone, right?
Yeah.
Because of poor behavior. You wouldn't care about, disappointing someone because of your inability at the time to be considerate towards that person or
Mm-hmm.
hear them out, right? So every principle, has its place. So
Mm.
you have to figure out where it can be placed, how you can be your best self in every single facet.
Mm-hmm. You preaching over there.
Yeah.
I'm like, y'all, what can I do better today? Because I know I'm trying to think
Yeah,
like, but
yeah,
it's so true though. It's
yeah,
very true. Like I
yeah.
think, yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't even know that there's anything else to add to that because you spoke to it.
Yeah,
Like I really think like
yeah.
I think we as just a community of people,
Right,
right?
right.
Women, men and women. It's Women's
Mhm.
Month. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
focusing on women, but I think men and women,
Mhm.
and the black community, right? I
Yeah.
think there's so many ways that we can just
Yep.
be better
Of
um
course.
to each other,
Mhm.
right? And also ourselves. But first I
Mhm.
think ourselves, right? Because once we're able to be good to
Yep.
ourselves, then it's easier to be good to
Good to
others.
others.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I loved everything you shared
Mhm.
there, and
Mhm.
definitely make sure y'all practicing self-care. Like even though
Please.
self-care redefined, whatever
Yeah.
the things that you're doing that do feel good to you
Mhm.
and lift up your mood and help you to
Yeah.
feel good, do those things, but
Do it.
also do the internal work too,
Yeah.
right? Don't just do the surface level,
Yeah.
go get your
Yeah.
massages and nails done, hair
Yeah.
done, you look great,
Yeah.
but you a tyrant.
Yeah. We don't
make
need that.
right, make sure you're doing the
We don't
internal
need
work
that. Yeah.
because that's really
Yeah.
what matters, I think, over
Yeah.
over anything else. So
Mhm. Mhm. Of course. Of
yeah.
course.
And
Yeah.
I know you spoke to just, you know, you being a marriage and family
Yeah.
therapist, right?
Yeah.
And the conversations you have with your clients.
Mhm.
I did want to ask, what made you specifically pick that niche of marriage
Yeah.
and family, and how has that experience been for you so far?
Sure. So fun fact, my mom was a mental health counselor. She moved into case management,
Mm,
and then she's retired now. So
love that.
she's done her line of work, and I was inspired by that because I used to actually read some of her case notes and just be nosy as a child, right? With
Hmm.
no understanding of what is going on. I was a child growing up, and I was inspired by what she was doing. And of course, as I said earlier, having being the strong friend, right?
Hmm.
Having the wisdom that some people, um don't have or are growing to have,
Hmm.
right? Just there's certain aspects of my life as I sit down, do my reflections, and really analyze who I am, in God. Like I have to use these things
Hmm.
also to my benefit, right? So definitely having that aha moment, a few moments throughout my life, pushed me further towards being a marriage and family therapist, right? I didn't want just, you know, to be a MHC. I didn't want to just be a psychologist. I didn't want to just be like in the field. I wanted to find where I can fit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of, being in the mental health field as a clinician is finding your niche or finding your fit, right? Where you can, people can come to you and say, I need this information from you,
Right.
right? Like I need what you have to offer because I've tried other things, not saying that they haven't worked,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm at a new stage in my life now. So, I need something more,
Yeah.
right? So I need deeper understanding, deeper revelation of this thing. So, I can get it from you, right? So no shade to social workers or mental health counselors at all, or anyone else in the mental health field, just where I am at, right? It fits me, and
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Yeah.
I love that for
Yeah.
you because I'm like,
Thank
I don't
you.
know a lot of MFTs.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you. So that's another thing. I do
Yeah.
think like there's something to that where
Yeah.
it's like, and even like couples therapists, right?
Yeah.
Like shout out to
Yeah.
Mac because
Period. That's the goat right there.
listen, me and Shan, that's how me and Shan met. Like when I
Yeah.
tell you,
Yeah.
Mac has Mac, like he's really like a brother from another mother, right? I
Yeah.
feel like he's
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
like there a lot of people that I've connected with,
Mhm.
even in the mental health space,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Has been like through whether going to his event or
Yeah.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, shout out to him. But I think even him being a couples therapist,
Mhm.
right,
Mhm.
is rare, and especially of color. Like I have to
Yes.
specifically say
Yes.
of
Of
color
color. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
MFT, I don't. You're probably the only MFT that I
Yeah.
could say that I
That's the
know.
thing. And even with that too, I've been trying to find a community of MFTs in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Like I found some outside of New York in various other states, but in New York is very difficult. So to I know there's others there, but it's like, where do you connect with them,
Yeah.
right? Outside of social media, like, how do you connect with them?
Right.
And as you mentioned too with Mac, he knows, a variety of people.
Mm-hmm.
So going to his events and being present in those areas, right? You tend to learn like, oh, I've been looking for this community. I found one person. Then one person leads to the other. So that's what
Yeah.
I was talking about earlier too. We all need each other. We
Yes.
all have to support each other
Mm-hmm.
because it's like what you want out of this experience, you will only get it to the extent that you go for it,
Yeah.
right? It will never be just planted in your lap. Don't get me wrong, you have some opportunities where you be like, wow, I didn't know you was watching me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know you see me. But outside of those instances, right, we have to make sure that we are networking with
Mm-hmm.
people as often as we can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, thank you for sharing that. And I guess just like a couple of questions that are coming up for me
Mm-hmm.
around just like being a marriage and family
Yeah.
therapist. How have you found that like I guess maybe what's your favorite part about it and what's maybe
Um,
something that you dislike about it?
Sure. My favorite part is engaging with couples mostly and families. I got my first family on my caseload most recently, and don't get me wrong, the dynamic is wide because it's going from individuals to multiple people now,
Yeah.
multiple personalities, multiple stories, right?
Yeah.
So even bringing something like narrative therapy into couples therapy, right? Because there's so many modalities that you can use with couples, which is what I appreciate a lot too,
Yeah.
is that you can still focus on the individual and you can focus on the family at the same time.
Right.
So the good thing about modalities in mental health too is that they can be combined,
Yeah.
right? You don't have to just stick to one thing.
Yes.
So yeah, so that would be something that I appreciate most is interacting with couples and families,
Mm-hmm.
kind of just seeing their dynamic because, even before I stepped into this field, understanding and kind of doing my own case analyzation of my own family was
Mm.
something that I used to do, pretty often. And I was like, I used to pay attention to behavior, why something is done, what impacted this behavior, what impacted this discrepancy or this discord in the family. So
Right.
yeah, so that would be one upside of that.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't like though is that being one of the few MFTs in a group practice, it's challenging
Mm.
because because the field is so, well, my career is so like niche related.
Mhm.
It's like couples, families, right? Individuals here and there, but mostly
Mhm.
couples and families, right? So a lot of people have knowledge of like an array of these things,
Yeah.
right? So it's not, for other people that I work with, it's more so, a very wide range. For me now, I have to go a bit deeper into the family system,
Mhm.
or the couple system, and analyze, where certain behaviors have been impacted. So I
Mhm.
would say that downside would be not having as much like support or resources, so to say. So a lot of research I have to do, it's mostly on my own. I'll
Yeah.
get research from those, within the practice, which I'm so appreciative that I'm working for a company and a group of people that actually care about each other, right? We
Mhm.
do support each other a lot. So it has been beneficial to be in this space. It's just that as an MFT, I wish there were more like, more of a community, so to say,
Yeah.
to provide very niche related resources.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood.
Right.
Thank you for sharing that. And I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I think that those were good, like,
Mhm.
responses that you
Mhm.
shared, because I think it's good for, like, maybe there may be another person
Yeah.
watching, right? Who,
Yeah.
whether
Yeah.
maybe not an MFT, but maybe considering going in
Yeah.
that direction.
Yeah.
Like, what are the things that they maybe
I want to do.
would want to know,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
should look out for, or could
Mhm.
expect going in that direction.
Mhm.
So I love that. But yeah, I think you definitely one girl, because
Yeah.
you're the only MFC that I know as far as couples
Yeah.
therapists.
Yeah.
I believe Mac is the only couples therapist that I
Yeah.
know of,
Yeah.
but I know that they're out there.
Yeah,
We just don't
that's
come
the
across
thing,
them that
right?
often.
Exactly. And if
Yeah.
we're not like searching social media and looking for people, like,
Yeah.
what time do we really have to really search social media
Mhm.
to that extent to really find them? But it definitely is a blessing when you do come across them too,
Yeah.
because you guys can share information, and you have a network right there, right?
Mhm.
If you need to refer clients, I recently started, a referral kind of like spreadsheet, just so that I have resources. So if any of my clients move, I can say, hey, I can recommend them to people that I know, that I trust,
Yes.
So even just with that, right? The
Mhm.
handoff in the mental health field from like one state to another, right? It's very tricky when you're working with clients, because they'll move, and it'll be something with insurance, and insurance stress me out. But
Mhm.
they do their job, but they stress me out either
Mhm.
way.
They sure
But
do.
yeah, so kind of focusing more on the safety aspect of things with clients and moving, that referral sheet has definitely helped me tremendously, where
Yeah.
I'm not just dropping my clients anywhere, but I'm also caring about whose hands they are going into, and that they will be well taken care of as well. So yeah, a therapist job does never stop.
It
it,
don't
it
stop.
always keeps going. So
It don't
you
stop.
know uh that would be really, the thing that I appreciate a lot about this field too, is that you have resources. It's just
Yeah.
finding the resources close to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, thank you for sharing that. I think
Mhm.
that's on point for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now we're at our last,
Yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
point, which I think is
Yeah.
an important one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Which is the
Yeah.
disparities we face as Black women in the therapy culture, right?
Mhm.
Which I was like, wow, this is a really good
Mhm.
topic. What made you, want to
Mhm.
talk about this?
Yeah. So, really, because I've encountered some things as a therapist from the time I left grad school up until me working, in various private practice, to
Mm-hmm.
land in the one that I feel most appreciated in, right?
Mm-hmm.
No shade to anybody. But yeah, I've experienced a lot,
Mm-hmm.
like, some of the things I've experienced is, jealousy. I've experienced, people, you know, discrediting my work,
Mm.
discrediting me as a therapist. And then it's like always this gray cloud as soon as you leave grad school and enter into the mental health field, that it's like everyone is gatekeeping everything. Like
Mm.
everyone is just like, you have to pay me to get this. You have to
Mm.
pay me to get that. And I was like, y'all gonna run my bank account dry. Like, and
Period.
then,
Because therapists, that's one thing people need to know. Therapists starting out
yeah,
don't make that much
they
money,
don't. Really
right? It takes
don't.
time,
Like, yeah,
certifications,
yeah,
a lot of things under your belt
yeah,
to get there. And
yeah,
so
yeah.
people have to cut it out with that.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Really.
I'm just like, all right, y'all could chill on the information. I could still research this. I hope
Yeah.
y'all know that. But
Yeah.
because it's coming from people who have tenure in the field,
Mhm.
right? It would be more appreciated. Like I'm not, I'm spending my money, but I'm getting as much out of it that I expect, right? Or
Mhm.
that, I can benefit from in my line of work. So yeah, definitely, those things alongside just being a black woman in this field, right? Because no shade to other demographics or other racial groups, but this was never a field where black people could thrive. Like this
Mm.
was never, years ago, it was never a field where you'd see a black woman or a black man, right, taking up for their community or taking up for people, that don't have the same resources as we do, right? So
Yeah.
definitely spreading awareness as a black woman in the mental health field, it does something for us,
Yeah.
right? It does something for the community for generations ahead. It sets a new standard that, hey, just like how you may want to be a president, you could be a therapist and thrive and live life
Mhm.
comfortably, right?
Mhm.
Live the life that you truly desired all these years to live,
Yeah.
right? Like I feel comfortable and I still have a long way to go,
Yes.
right? Because I've experienced these things and I didn't allow them to, cower me down. I didn't allow them to define me, right? Don't get me wrong. When you first start out, you're like, a lion, a sheep in the lion's den. Like you're going to get eat up if you allow it. But
Right.
as you journey through and you realize that these are the things that actually create some resilience, it creates strength, it creates agility, it creates that foundation that you need to keep going, right?
Mhm.
People will start to appreciate that more because you are confident in the fact that I'm not the best, but I have something to offer just as much as
Yes.
everyone else does,
Yeah.
right? So I know that was long, but
No, that was great.
definitely, that would be the true essence of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I can resonate with that a lot. I
Mhm.
think I was thinking as you were sharing, like, what are
Mhm.
some of the disparities that I've experienced personally?
Mhm.
Definitely, I think I can agree with. I think I've experienced like microaggressions, right,
Yeah.
from like
Yeah.
colleagues, right?
Yeah.
Like
Of course, the
being, because I
regular.
mean
Yeah.
that's the thing. The percentage of us
Yeah.
that are black
Yeah.
is like small, right?
Small.
So we always
Very.
are surrounded by,
Yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
white people,
Mhm. Yeah.
whoever else, the majority,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
this particular
Yeah.
field, right? And so I
Mhm.
think I've experienced microaggressions or even just being perceived
Yeah.
in a different way that is like
That's it. Yeah.
untrue, right?
Yeah.
And then having
Yeah.
to be like,
Yeah. That ain't
I'm
me.
sorry, you have me mistaken,
You
and
truly do.
try again,
You truly do.
right?
That's the thing
Mm-hmm.
because even how you present yourself on like social media, because we know like social media, a lot of people use social media to run their business and stuff like that, like just the whole rebranding, which I'm currently in right
Yeah.
now, right? Because I feel a little bit more fit now to
Mm-hmm.
share things with people. So even with that, right, people look at these things like, oh, like they're not worth it, or she's not this or she's not that, and I'm like, have you had a conversation with me? Have you
Mm.
given some thought to what goes through my mind? How can I also provide useful information for what you may be looking for,
Right.
right? Like I always tell people, don't just look at people's outward self, right? Look at their inward self, because then you tend to see like how they can blossom, how the information that they have to offer is useful for you, and how you don't have to break your pockets to get the information that you need,
Yeah.
right? So, you know, being in this field, it has its rewards as time goes on, but definitely these discrepancies will knock you off your feet if you allow them to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that's where I think like being strong-minded, right? I
Mhm.
guess which but that takes
Mhm.
practice. I don't know that everybody
Yeah.
is just strong-minded out the
Yeah.
gate, but you can definitely develop it, right?
Yeah.
That's where I
Yeah.
think like if you experience microaggressions, which I think most
Mhm.
black people walking
Yeah.
and living on
Yeah.
the planet have
Yeah.
at some point in their
Yeah.
life, like being able to not internalize it, right?
Mhm.
Because I think a lot
Mhm.
of times like
Mhm.
when experiencing things like microaggressions or
Yeah.
just being perceived wrong,
Yeah.
you can internalize it to actually be truth.
Mhm.
When I
Mhm.
think, how you continue to build up, like a strong mind or
Yeah.
tenacity or,
Right.
is through just countering those
Yeah.
things with
Yeah.
like actual truth, right? And so
Right.
I
Right.
think, yeah. And as far as
Mhm.
therapists, because I think what at least what I've seen now that's a
Mhm.
popular thing is like therapists kind of utilizing social media to
Yeah.
spread the
The
messages
messages.
around like,
Yep. Yep.
mental wellness and things
Yeah.
like that. And I
Mhm.
think that can be hard, right, to navigate, I
Sure
think,
can.
at least from just what
Yeah.
I've seen, right?
Mhm.
And I think with that too,
Yeah.
what I would say is like what I think is helpful
Mhm.
is just staying true to you, right? And not like
Right.
not losing sight of like what are you doing it for? Like
Yeah.
I always
Yeah.
like I think when I see like because there's a lot of like
Mhm.
therapists, wellness people like that
Yeah.
use social media, which I think you should. Social media is
Mhm.
for that purpose,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I think just remembering because I think that's also what will make you stand out, right?
Mhm.
And make you
Mhm.
if you are trying to appeal to maybe brands or
Mhm.
whoever that you're trying to,
Mhm.
get the attention of aside from like the audience or the
Mhm.
listeners or whatever, just staying true to you, I think, you know is really what kind of sets you apart because
Of
nobody else is
course.
you, right?
Of
So like
course.
the way you would word something or say something
Mhm.
is going to look different from the way a male therapist
Mhm.
creating content,
Mhm.
what that would look like. So that's where I
Yeah.
think like staying
Yeah.
true to you and remembering what you said earlier,
Yeah.
remembering your why, like what
Yeah.
are you doing it for?
Yeah.
Because there's a
Yeah.
lot of time, energy, money that
Chill.
goes into it, right? So why
Yeah.
do it if you're not gonna
Of
remember
course.
the why, right? And really like tap
Mhm.
into that part
Yeah.
and put the work in on
Yeah.
that part. So for me, I think,
Yeah.
you know, as far as like certain things, even around
Mhm.
like, because conversations come up too
Mhm.
around like gatekeeping and things like
Yeah.
that happen. I'm always
Mhm. Why?
like you forgot why.
Why?
Or maybe
Yeah.
people get
Yeah.
big, right? Like when people
Yeah.
get big to a certain place in
Yeah.
their,
It gets to their head. Yeah.
yeah. And it's like
Yeah.
I always say like,
Mhm.
if God was to allow it that like I become this
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
please let me just remain the same person.
Please, I promise you, I prayed that prayer today, and I
Mhm.
had some of my friends pray it over me too because the inquiries are coming in like back to back to
Yeah.
back to back to back, and
Mhm.
I'm like, "Whoo, I prayed for this, but now I don't know how to like receive this,"
Yeah.
And that's the thing. We have to be careful what we pray for, right?
Mm.
Not that these are bad things that you're praying for, but you have to also include God in growing in to accept these things, like growing in the fact that it looks different when it's actually here. It
Mm.
looks different from between you praying for it and then you actually being a part of it,
Yeah.
right? So even something you mentioned earlier too about the gatekeeping and just being big and having all of these things and then not staying true to yourself. It looks fake. Like people can tell when you are being fake, when you
Yeah,
are really putting on a show
for sure.
just for money, right? Or for your own, benefit. People can tell when you are doing things that aren't valuable. So, and you shouldn't really base your the knowledge that you carry on likes or like shares or reels because it can deplete you. It can take so much out of you,
Mhm.
right? That you are now losing focus of your why,
Mhm.
right? You are losing focus of who you are in this space, right? Who you are as a therapist, who you are as an engineer, who you are as a carpenter. Who are you in
Yeah.
these fields, right? Like
Mhm.
you always want to remember that you mustn't allow remember that social media is a tool and you must use it as such, right? Market, brand, do
Yeah.
whatever you got to do and get off, right?
Yes.
It could be entertainment too, but it mustn't exceed, you know, your why. It mustn't exceed what's the purpose of you doing this thing. So definitely, be your authentic self.
Yeah.
People appreciate that more than you putting on a show and presenting yourself as someone that you're not. It's okay to be growing and let people know that I am evolving. I would appreciate if you evolved with me,
Mm.
but I am evolving. I am growing. I'm
Mhm.
not where I want to be yet, but I am growing. And I
Yeah.
would appreciate that. People appreciate that more
Mhm.
than you stepping on the scene and you like, yeah, this is me and da 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 da. It
Mhm.
just doesn't cut it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I guess I always with that too. I'm wondering
Mhm.
like if people's why can change right over time. Maybe,
True.
maybe.
True.
Like I don't know. Like
That's a
I'm
good question.
even like I mean to this
Mhm.
day, and not to say like I ain't like a famous person or the biggest
Yeah.
person ever, but
Yeah.
I think my why has remained the same. Like
Mhm.
why I got into the mental
Mhm.
health field, why
Yeah.
I started the
Yeah.
podcast has remained the
Mhm.
same.
Mhm.
But I don't know. Maybe people who started from like very, very humble beginnings
Yeah.
and are now like celebrities,
Yeah.
their why could change over
Of
time, right?
course.
If it's
Of
at
course.
least that's my thought process, right? Like if you're
It's true.
evolving and you're
Mhm.
growing, then maybe the why can change
But
and
it's
that
evident.
right.
Like even what you just explained is evident, right? We see people
Hmm.
who have been in certain spaces and they've had those humble beginnings and they grow to be celebrities, and they can lose their why because your why is no longer I just want people to get this information and be impacted. It's
Right.
now moved from that to I just want all of what I could get because I never had this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you start seeing like some trauma slipping up in there, and then you like, ooh, now I gotta take
Yeah.
a step back,
Right.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's a fact.
yeah.
No, but that was great though. I mean, I
Mhm,
appreciate everything that you shared.
mhm.
Um and yeah, we're like winding down.
Yeah, yeah,
Usually with every
yeah.
episode,
Mhm,
I include an affirmation segment as
mhm,
well, right? So I
mhm.
always like to, ask the guest like what's an affirmation
Yeah,
or a quote,
yeah,
a scripture
yeah.
that you like live by that helps to kind of encourage you or
Mhm,
help you
mhm.
even just mentally, like with
Yeah,
with your
yeah.
overall well-being.
Well, my audience is kind of different from everybody else because I am a Christian, so I live my life according to the Christian standards and just where God has called me and what he desires for my life. So, I think a central one that everyone can benefit from is to definitely remind yourself often that you are not what people say about you. Like you are not, you know, yeah, you're not what they say about you, right? They can be saying great things about you
Hmm.
and you can pull the meat and spit out the bones, of course, but you are not that, right?
Yeah.
You know exactly who you are, or if you don't, that's time to find out who am I, right? Who am I
Yeah.
in these spaces? But definitely reminding yourself often that no matter what people say about me, right, I am still worthy of, what I am, the spaces I'm in. I'm still worthy of being respected.
Hmm.
I'm still worthy of, of people pouring into me just as much as I pour into them. And specifically for those a part of the Christian community, right? Remember that scripture tells us that, what does it gain a man to what does it profit a man to gain the world and lose himself, right? Similar to what I just explained, but now on a more Christian faith based level, right?
Yeah.
If you find yourself pulling things from the world and now losing sight of yourself, what are you benefiting from? Like
Mm.
how are you benefiting from it,
Hmm.
right? um Definitely reminding yourself of who you are in Christ, right? That every step that you take is because of him. Every breath that you take is because of him. Every opportunity that you have been called to is because of him. So keeping him a part of that process is definitely important, which is why, even when we prayed earlier, right? I asked them to pray, not knowing their faith, their spiritual stance, right?
Hmm.
Only because I know the God that I serve, that he reaches after hearts and not actions, right? He reaches after people's hearts. So that was just to set the tone of this podcast, of just her moving forward in developing other episodes, right? this just sets the foundation for more. And right. And even to encourage you too, that you are, no matter what you face in this journey, right, you are right where you're supposed to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
It may be difficult to maneuver, even just with your travels and just finding out, reminding yourself and rehearsing your why, right? It may be difficult to do these things, because you may not have people always in your corner to pour into you. But remember that you are doing this. Lives are being changed, right? People are being impacted because you chose to do this, right? Because you stepped out of the box and seen the necessity for awareness to be given out or information to be shared for free, right? People are watching this
Mm-hmm.
across the world and are being impacted because you made that step, right? So keep going. However I can support you, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
And continue to strive for excellence, right? Continue to strive for not perfection, but strive for as much as you have been called to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you'll continue to see people start gravitating more towards you. So yeah,
No, I love that. Thank you so
big up
much.
you, girl.
Thank you. That was so
Yeah,
deep.
yeah.
First of all, Shani was preaching over here. She's preaching this whole episode. All right, and yeah, for sure, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
That's the thing too. Like
yeah,
off camera, right? We did pray before we
yeah,
started, and I
yeah,
thought that was so. That's the
yeah,
first time I've never had anyone
yeah.
come on the show and
Mhm.
say like, "Let's pray before we start," and I was
Mhm.
like, "Oh, like I love that."
Yeah.
I kind of wish it could have been on camera,
Yeah.
but that's but that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess I
Mhm.
will share my quote, which is
Yeah.
like not necessarily something that I've heard it before, and
Mhm.
I guess it resonates with me right now,
Yeah.
which is change your environment, change your life,
Of
right? Where I
course.
feel
Of
like
course.
I moved because I feel like I needed a change of pace. I needed to be in a new environment,
Mhm.
and it's going well so far.
Mhm.
And I think it was an intentional move, right? I think
Mhm.
sometimes, and not just for the
Yeah.
listeners, the audience, I think sometimes people like weigh it, right? And wrestle
Yeah.
with like,
Yeah.
should I stay with what I know, what feels more
Mhm.
comfortable, or
Mhm.
like take that risk and step out and like,
Mhm.
you know, whether it's actually physically moving somewhere else
Yeah.
or whether it's like, just making some sort of like
Yeah.
major
Yeah.
change. I always, I think I can stand with that notion or that quote that
Mhm.
says like,
Mhm.
do it, right? Like
Yeah.
change,
Do it.
make that change, and
Yeah.
you may just
Mhm.
see your life transform. And it may
Yeah.
not even be your life in the physical
Mhm.
sense, but it may just
Mhm.
be like parts of yourself
Yeah.
just grow
Yeah.
and develop
Yeah.
and become better because
Mhm.
of it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, trusting yourself is important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, trusting the fact that you have what it takes is truly important. And I'm happy that you shared that too, like changing your environment.
Yeah.
It equates to you changing up parts of yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Growing, evolving, and remaining a student, as we mentioned earlier. These are definitely core values that we mustn't let go of.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
Period.
yeah.
Yeah.
Period, boo.
Yes. And yeah, I
Yeah.
think we're at the end. Definitely let the people know where they
Yes.
can find you, where they can follow
Sure,
you,
sure,
and
sure.
anything you have
Mhm.
upcoming or going
Yeah.
on.
So, the upcoming events, I'll be posting on my social media, those things as well. But you guys can follow me on Instagram at Shani B MFT with two underscores at the end. Also, as I've been saying earlier, I'm in the process of rebranding my page, and making it fit towards my niche.
Mm-hmm.
So be patient with me, y'all.
Yes.
And yeah, that's that. I'm on Facebook as well, Shannon Brown. You may see a bunch of Shannon Browns, but if you see me here, you will notice my picture there as well. So
Yes.
yeah, that's how you guys can stay in contact. I do accept you know, uh DMs, be respectful, okay? I'm going to say that. Be respectful.
Don't slide in the
Be
DM talking
kind,
crazy now.
right? Be
Okay.
kind. A hi hello works as well, right?
Yes.
And I am on Psychology Today for those who are in search of therapy services. You can reach me there. The company that I work for, I ain't gonna mention that, but yeah, you guys can find me on Psychology Today, and that's the best way that you can get therapy services from me. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Period. Thank you so much, Shani,
Of course.
for
Thank you for having
coming.
me.
Yes, it was a pleasure. And make sure you
Yes.
guys follow her and continue
Mhm.
to subscribe, share all the
Mhm.
good stuff at Your Mental Matters
Yes,
podcast.
yes, yes.
And we're out.
Yes. Bye y'all.
Bye.